Hello, hello. Welcome back to, I guess we're calling the program. We're Lloyd and I have coined this term. We're doing reverse interviews with some really great people in the pizza industry. So we've had John Arena, we've had Mike Bausch. I think Lloyd's talking to Pete LaChapelle this week, which should be cool. But I've got right here some questions from you're on the other way. This guy. So Anthony Falco. So hey, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to kick my Monday off by talking to you. This is
Yeah, thanks.
so
Thanks for having
so.
me. Appreciate
I
it.
just I just want to jump right into this.
Okay.
It's interesting because a guy like you, a guy like John Arena, you probably have been interviewed a thousand times, right? And we ask a lot of the same questions because it's the same things we all want to know. And so
Yeah.
I came up with the idea of, well, let's ask them what they want to tell us, because I'm sure you walk away from an interview sometimes and think, why didn't he ask me about how come I didn't eat Captain Crunch as a kid? And
Yeah, no,
and
it's I appreciate the opportunity to do that. It's a really good idea.
so I want to go down your list, and the first question you said, what's your favorite memory from your time traveling internationally? So what is your favorite memory of that?
Yeah, that was the first question just because, I mean, I miss the international travel.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, it definitely is cut down. I mean, I've had one trip internationally. It was a lot of paperwork, a lot of testing. So it was a little different than normal. But yeah, thinking back to my pandemic life, it's just thinking, I had some really amazing experiences, and I consider myself to be an extremely lucky person. Um, I'd say like there's like two top ones for me. Like one was when I first flew into Lisbon to do the project there called Lupita, which is just an incredible pizzeria run by an incredible chef, Duda Ferreira, and picked me up from the airport. We went to drop off my bags, and then we immediately drove out to the outskirts of Lisbon to visit this flour mill. And like to me, this job, like the thing that has been the most incredible part of it is to go meet the producers, because
Yeah.
even if you're just a like chef who's just by yourself and you're making every pizza by hand, I mean, you're still never doing it alone. You're
Yeah.
always relying on your producers, farmers. um, and so we went to this small mill, and they had on the site, it was like the guy's like, great 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 grandfather was the first
Wow.
miller, and there was this for like 300 or 400 year old windmill,
Mhm.
and it was and so we got a tour of how that worked, and there's like an upstairs area where you could sleep, because like when the wind was right, it was like time to mill no matter what was
Right.
happening.
No matter what was going on, that was production time.
Yeah, and there's these clay gourds all along the sails that would whistle, and the different
Hmm.
tone of the whistle would let the miller know like the speed that was going and whether it was right or not for whatever they
Wow.
were milling, whether it was like wheat or corn or barley or whatever. And the owner Paolo, he was just like super passionate about all of this, and he gave us this whole tour of this like 100-year-old windmill, and then we toured his modern mill where he's got like robots, and he's got a modern stone milling setup and just like producing incredible flour. He was showing us all this, and like after about an hour of walking through this mill, I mean, I had literally flown like a red eye, gone to the hotel, and at some point, I mean, I barely remember. At some point, I just was like, I just turned and walked away, went to the car, and like sat down and fell asleep.
Just fell asleep. Yeah, I bet.
And when I woke up, we had like, six. They were loading the back of the car with flour, and we had like six different bags of flour to try, like T85, T45, and like we had all these different flours to try, and we took them back, and we're able to make an incredible product with locally milled flour, which is always my goal, is to try to leverage whatever local ingredients are where I am internationally.
Right. That's very cool. I was going to ask you, talking about you haven't traveled internationally, and I follow you on Instagram. I like to watch your stuff. You have a very good eye for like art and cool things as you're out. So I appreciate your Instagram and what you do. But you flew, and it wasn't too long ago. You flew, and I'm like, there's literally no one in the airport. I don't know where you were at, but there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah. I
was
went.
that an off time, or was it just like there's just nobody there?
No, I mean, it's their international travel is down, incredibly. You have to get a business visa to travel,
Yeah.
and it's just, the majority of kind of leisure travel is not happening, So like,
Yeah.
this is my business, I mean, there's a lot of people in this business who worked in kitchens throughout the whole pandemic, I've been able to do a lot of my work is remote, like designing kitchens and menus and things like that. So like I've been able to do a lot of work remotely, but at some point I still need to be in the kitchen with the other chefs. And so, I've had some clients here in the United States open, and so I've spent, I don't know, maybe like 10 weeks total in a kitchen.
Wow.
It's just that I have to travel to get to the kitchen. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
not there every day like a lot of these people have been. And, everyone's, I think, trying to do their best to stay safe and to, just earn a living, keep the lights
Yeah.
on, keep the kids fed,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we're just trying to do.
When do you think you're going to get back at it again and start traveling again, or do you have a plan for that? What's your thought process?
I mean, it's a case by case basis. So,
Yeah.
it's, we're just trying to see, like as restaurants are opening, if I can be there, and I had my client in Mongolia opened during the pandemic, and that we had to just do completely, there was no option to get there whatsoever because they closed the entire country to car, train, plane traffic whatsoever.
Wow.
And so we just did that all through Zoom training, so it was just me, and they had multiple cameras, and I would be like, put your fingers here.
Right. That's got to be just almost strange, right? Like, I guess you adjust to it.
Dude, everything is strange, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are we?
Right,
what is this world? What is happening? Like,
right.
I mean,
Right.
uh,
I want to move on. I love this question because I think it speaks volumes to maybe who you are. That, and I don't know how old you are, but I just turned 51 and I'm constantly reading because I think that's how you get better. And one of your questions is, what's the best book you've read lately?
yeah, thanks. I'm 41 for the record, and I love reading. I mean, I read books, but I also then listen to books on tape, which I really like for like going out on a walk or something like that. But it's actually two books that have really stuck with me in the last year, and it's called, there's 1491 and then 1493. It's by Charles Mann, and it's essentially, 1491 is a catalog, like a current up-to-date catalog of pre-Columbia Americas, from a biological, anthropological, and archaeological standpoint. I mean, I think what most people's understanding of what was happening in the New Worlds is totally, kind of off. Like, it was heavily populated. There was
Right.
there was a lot more, cultivation of the land, I think, than a lot of people think. It was really eye-opening. And then 1493 about, basically the modern world that we live in, and the Columbian Exchange, which it was based on the work of another scholar called Ecological Imperialism, and the Columbian Exchange. And it's just, to me, it's really interesting, like, and 1493 talks about Mexico City basically being the center of this new world. And I mean, Mexico City is one of my favorite cities in the world. And you think of, there's, before 1492, there's no tomatoes in Italy, there's no chilies in Thailand, there's no chocolate, anywhere else in the world besides,
Right.
Mesoamerica. And just how the modern world that we live in has been shaped by the moving around of these biological, kind of plants, animals, and germs, and it's just, it's a beautiful book. It's tragic. It's eye-opening. It's, and it's for someone who travels. It's like, that's the part, to me, that's like the best part about my job, is like, I love history, and I love to be able to see in real life, kind of, learn, and before I go to a place, to try to read about it and learn as much as I can.
That's cool. Pro tip, and I got this from my boy Brian Monahan. I'm in a mastermind group with him. I was the guy that was downloading Audible books
Yeah.
the Audible app on Amazon, right? And he one day said, hey, you can just go to your local library. So I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa County Library, they have an app, and you can download books for free.
Yeah, my wife is she gets movies, books, like she's like the big library. I mean, library system in the United States is like we're extremely lucky to have it. It's a really cool thing. But yeah, then the other book,
that's everyone's pro tip of the day. So
yeah, and then the last one I just read, though, that's like in the last couple years. But then the one I just read over the pandemic was I listened to it on Audible, was called "The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind," which was really a mind blower. I mean, it was just super, super cool about the Bronze Age collapse and this like kind of really interesting theory about, like the bicameral mind. This like, it's a theory about how, how pre-Homer, like if you look at the Homeric epics, like that people didn't really have, consciousness, like that they were hearing that gods were actually voices that they were hearing in their heads that were instructing them what to do. It was a really amazing book, and it apparently God, what is this? The book, the cyberpunk book that I'm reading was like heavily influenced by it. I'm sorry, I'll have to
compared to what you're reading, I feel like I'm reading like pop-up books, like just boop, like that.
I mean,
I'm not way too cerebral for me, so
I really like nonfiction. It's like, to me, that's just really what I like to. I didn't. I'm self-taught in probably everything I've done, so it's like yeah.
Well, I think it just shows, like I said, just shows that you're a guy that's still trying to get better every day, and I think sometimes we hit a certain point in life where we just kind of like we know everything, or we think we know everything, and there's so much more to learn. And I have a 23-year-old son, and we talk all the time about what are you reading, what are you listening to, and I think I love that you had the question down here. I love this question too, because I'm really curious to know the answer. What's the most important thing to know before you decide to open a restaurant?
Okay, that's great.
It's like $1 million question, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's something that, when people contact me, I think this is pretty important, because it's like, it's a huge part of, any success I've had in this business as a consultant. It has been, is squarely on the shoulders of the people, of my clients. It's their success is my success. And I'm really just there to help them. I mean, I'm there to facilitate it and to help them. I am painfully aware of all the mistakes that I've made in my life, and
we all are, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, it's something that that's my whole business. So it's like, I have to know, like, that's what I do, is I basically kind of help people. Like, you're about to open a restaurant, and a restaurant is basically a room where things go wrong all the time and you have to fix them. And
you just won the internet with that. That's very true.
And so, like, I'm just there to help you kind of like anticipate some of those things that will go wrong, whether they be mechanical or human, or other acts of God. And so one of the first things I ask most of my clients when they they want to get started with me is like, why do you want to open a restaurant? And there is a right answer and there's a wrong answer.
Okay.
The wrong answer is, I think I have this great idea and I'm going to make a bunch of money. Like, that's the wrong answer, because there are a lot of better ways to make money. There's a lot. And, I mean, almost every other business is a better way to make money. The right answer to open a restaurant is because you are in love with something. You're in love with food, you're in love with pizza, you're in love with wine, you love to serve people, which is a very, at the end of the day, that's what we do, is we serve people. And we all, I think the pandemic has, kind of shown, we're all very lucky to have this job, because people don't have to eat at restaurants ever. I mean, you have to have car insurance,
right.
Like, it's like, you just
it's kind of important. Yeah.
So like, they're basically just sitting there waiting for you to like pick one, right? And it's like, after you sign up with the car insurance, no one is going to say, wow, I loved that car insurance. It was you know, like
that doesn't happen.
never happened. But like when you make a food, you know, that's nostalgic, maybe something that reminds them of their childhood, or something
Yep.
that reminds them of their country that they came from, or if you know, you're from another country and you come here and you make, you know, something that you loved and someone else responds to it, it opens their eyes to that. I mean, it's an emotional thing, and people
Yeah.
choose, they choose to spend their birthdays, they choose to spend their anniversaries with us.
Yeah.
And so you have to do it from a place of love. And then the other thing is owning being a restaurant owner is not a job.
Yeah.
Right. You have to, it's like the Ottomans, you know, they had this thing where like if you were the Sultan, like you can't just, that's not a job. You have to have another job. You have to be either like you know, an architect or a, you know, scientist or a doctor or something like that. And then you apply your knowledge to being a leader of this thing. And so
Yeah.
you have to have something else. Like you either have to know about wine, you have to know about food, you have to be a carpenter, know how to build something, you have to
Yeah.
know how to fix, you know, electricity. Like you have to know how to do something. Otherwise, you're just going to end up, all your profits are going to go to other people who know what they're doing and you don't, and they're going to take advantage of you because of that. So
Cool.
have a skill that you can apply to the business, and then have
Yep.
love in your heart for the business.
I love that. I love that. I think you're totally right from the standpoint, if you want to open a restaurant to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or have rich parents.
Well, that's another good way to do it, right? No doubt.
People always ask me, why don't you have a restaurant?
Yeah, because you don't have rich parents, and there are other ways to make money, right?
Yeah.
We are involved with a lot of what we call, you know, the backyard pizziolos that have unis and they have rock boxes, and
Yeah.
they do it, and they make some gorgeous looking pizza.
It's amazing.
I see some. I mean, there's a group out there called the Pizziolo Tribe, and there are these backyard guys all across the country, and amazing pizza. And one of your questions, what advice would you give to people making pizza at home? And I instantly thought of some of those guys, because so what would be your advice for those guys?
Yeah, I mean it's revolutionizing, right? I mean,
Yeah,
what's been happening? I think
yeah,
it's a huge part of what's happening. You know, yeah, I mean, huge respect to Tom Gosney, for, you know, with Rockbox, and then Uni, what they're doing, and then, you know, I'm been really involved with Breville, what they're doing with the, you know, and I don't have a backyard, I live in New York, so the Breville's kind of a good option for me.
right.
But yeah, I mean, being able to access those high temperatures, you know, it just really shows you like that, you know, you can do it at home, which is really amazing.
Yeah,
My advice for them would be, you know, to, when you have a recipe from someone you trust and it works, you know, just start messing with it. Like try to break things, you know, like try to really mess around. Like, you know, when someone says like, oh, it's 2.5% salt, like see what happens when you do 2%, see what happens when you do 3%, you know, like,
right.
you know, with there's no oil, see what happens when you add oil, see what happens when you take it away. Like just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Like, did you ever play Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization, when you were like, is like
No, I don't know what that is. What is
it
that?
was like a PC game where you like start a civilization and then you like go to war with other civil.
I think I remember that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was obsessed with that game. But basically, you start and there's this whole world, but you start and the whole world is dark, and you have to move your little settlers around and start
Yeah,
revealing the darkness to know where the continent ends, where the islands are, the rivers are, and all this stuff. And
right.
it's like, if you just stay where you are, you're gonna have this darkness all around you. So like,
Yeah,
you know, just, and so the only reason that's stopping you is fear of messing up, you know, fear of like making a pizza and someone saying they don't like it. So just let go of your fear and just do, like, try anything, try everything and see what happens, you know?
yeah. I love that. We tend to live our lives in fear of just rejection and a lot of things, and we get up every day and we carbon copy our day today to the next, to the next, to the next, and we don't change it up. And sometimes that message needs to be said to a lot of people. What are you cooking when you aren't making pizza?
Currently, I'm doing a lot of tacos. So I have a really uh, great local butcher next to me called the Meat Hook. So I've been getting some grass-fed steak from them and doing steak tacos. I do like traditional, like Tex or Mex tacos. Like I do like a carne asada taco with just
Mhm.
like some diced onions and cilantro, and I make like a tomatillo salsa, which is in the cookbook. Pizzas are. I have a tomatillo salsa
We're
recipe
getting
that.
ready to talk about that next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just getting an early plug in there.
yeah,
Um,
no, all good, all good.
and then I'll do like a Tex-Mex style taco with a flour tortilla. I get really great or like organic flour tortillas from this place Tacombe, and I make refried beans from like local organic upstate New York farms. We get these refried beans. They're great, and I throw like pork fat and onions and chilies and stuff
Yeah,
in there, and throw those in the freezer. And so like you can I have a bunch of portioned out beans. I just pull them out. I go to the
yeah.
butcher. I get the steak, chop it up, throw some salsa on there. I mean,
It's
Mamma
early.
mia.
It's 9:30 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm now hungry. So
Well, you're lucky because you got some breakfast taco options there,
oh, we
don't
got a
you?
lot of breakfast. In fact, I'm already thinking about going to see my boy Pablo Asensio. Pablo's Mexican today. That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about your book. So your book, Pizza Czar, is coming out, I think, May 18th.
May 18th.
Order it on Amazon, other places, which is on your website, and
Yeah.
I'll post that here. Let's talk about the book. I mean, this is obviously years in the making. Has
3 years. Yeah.
did COVID help you be able to just sit down and go, I'm finishing this?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife, uh, she's my life partner and business partner. And, when we were, after the initial just being terrified,
Yeah.
and, like everyone else in the beginning, we never left New York City. We never left our apartment. We stayed here in the city. We locked down, and we just decided, we were like, all right, well, let's start finishing it. I mean, uh, there was the need to like kind of get figure out my business, which was in shambles, and kind of put
Right.
that back together. But it was a great opportunity because I was traveling so much that the book was really just kind of trickling out.
Yeah.
Um, so we really just banged it out. We got all of the manuscript done, and then it's like the recipe testing was happening simultaneously, and then we ended up, we scheduled the photo shoot. There's a lot of photos. I took my camera all around the world for the last 3 years. I had took like a
Right.
35 millimeter camera with me and took some. There's a bunch of those in there, which I'm really proud of. There's some illustrations which I did, which are in there. And then we scheduled a photo shoot here in our apartment towards the, kind of in the summer. And yeah, we got it all done, but the recipes themselves are a culmination of, not just the last 3 years of working on the book, but the last, 13, 14 years, whatever it is, I've been making pizza professionally. And then there's a lot of stuff in there growing up. The food that I was really heavily influenced by was, my dad's family, the Sicilian American farmers from Texas, who,
Yeah.
my great grandmother, she would make, her kind of version of pizza, which was like really a kind of descendant of faccia di vecchia from Sicily.
Yeah.
Like my philosophy on, trying to use local ingredients. They're trying to use as little, chemicals or processed foods as possible. There's only like, I think, one recipe that has sugar in it, which is like my pickled jalapenos. Um, there's no vegetable oils. It's really all just, real true fats like extra virgin olive oil, pork fat, beef tallow. Like, so it's a lot of just my overall philosophy all in one book.
How many recipes are in the book?
It's almost 100 recipes and techniques. And so it's
Wow.
4 major dough styles. So we've got your thin and crispy. We've got your Neapolitan-ish, which is really geared towards those backyard pizza makers.
Yep.
And with these newfangled high temperature ovens.
Yeah.
And then I've got the pan pizzas. I've got the Sicilian grandma, which is kind of a catch-all, Sicilian, grandma, Detroit, whatever.
Detroit, yeah.
Focaccia, like faccia di vecchia. It's all kind of a, it's a all-in-one there. And then I have the butter crust pan pizza, which is kind of my homage to 90s Pizza Hut style pan pizza.
Have you tried the new Pizza Hut Detroit?
I don't know. I haven't.
We ordered it and tried it, and it's okay, right? But if you've never had a Detroit pizza, you try it and you're like, oh, this is okay, right? But if you like Via 313 in Austin, or the guys at Cane Rosso are doing Thunderbird pies.
Yeah, that looks really great.
Right. You try that, and then you try the Pizza Hut. But, it's crash and burn, but that's a different story. This book right over my shoulder up here is Unsliced by Mike Bausch, which into talking about you're both doing keynote speeches at Pizza Expo this year, and I know you guys have talked. And are you excited about that? Looking forward to it? Are you already kind of going around in your head on what you want to talk about? What does that process look like? I know what the process looks like for him because I talk to him on a regular basis. What's it look like for you?
Well, yeah, first of all, it's great talking to Mike. So, I mean, that's one of the cool things about, being asked to do something like this is it brings you together with people that you didn't know in the industry. And I had a really great talk with him, really inspiring story, and just someone who's just really doing a great job there in Tulsa. So, he seems to have more of a plan than I do. I'll have to say that, but I don't know. I was like, I don't know what to say. I mean, I really just, I'm working on it. I don't know what to say. Like, I want to keep the thing that people message me all the time, from all over the world. And, they will just tell me that I inspired them, to make pizza at home, inspired them to open a restaurant, or just inspired them that like, hey, you could get fired from your job and have and something new can come along. I mean, and like I feel like I'm constantly just messing up my life and then being given chances and opportunities to like kind of rebuild something else with it. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's something is just like to never give up. Don't be afraid. Like keep being try to inspire people. I mean, I'm now I'm in a crossroads here with my career, and I have a lot of really cool opportunities to not just go out there and make money, but to really help people. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that, some of the projects I'm working on in that area.
Very cool.
And I mean, it's just I don't know. I should probably figure that out, dude.
What comes, the good thing that comes from screwing up in your life, you learn. And you're obviously a guy that's trying to learn and reading, but you learn the most from screwing up. And so I think it's okay to say, hey, I've screwed up and I've learned and I've gotten opportunities from it, but you learn in the process. The people that just go to work every day and sit in their cubicle and they never screw up and their life sucks and it's boring, they never learn much either. So I want to ask you one last question that's not written down here. What are you insecure about?
Oof. I mean, I think everything. I mean, I think that's like if I've had any kind of success, I mean, it really comes from, feeling insecure about, having only a high school education, like not, of not feeling like I know the right thing to say, like of, not having like an impeccable resume of restaurants that I've worked at, I mean, of just being like someone who is I mean, I'm insecure about everything, and I think that's like if I've been successful, it's because I show up and I'm like every day I'm like, man, I should probably do a really good job so that people want me to stick around,
Just you're doing good. Yeah. Well, you know what? But I'm maybe I'm very I don't know what the word is, but that's something, insecurity is a great motivator and it's a great driver. And you just said, I show up. And once again, back to my 23-year-old son who has his first job out of college. And I said, we talked about this last Friday at lunch. It is amazing how if you show up, you're ahead of like 90% of the people. Show
Yeah.
up, be early. You were early for this today. I was early for this today. Show up, be early, have a great attitude. Have some insecurity is not a bad thing. If I had no insecurity, heck, I was insecure about talking to you today.
Yeah.
But if we don't have insecurity, I think there's probably something wrong there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Overconfidence is, I mean, look through history,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the killer, I mean, and like, you got to do your homework, you got to know what you're going into. You cannot be guessing, you've got to be like, that's the art of war, is like, you've got to know your intelligence, you got to know what you're walking into. Like, you can't just be like, hey, I'm the best, I'm going to just like cruise in here and it's going to be just W after W,
Right.
like I call my wife probably in the middle of almost every one of these consulting jobs, and I'm just like, man, it is just not going well.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, I mean, everybody wants to be the international pizza consultant until they're the international pizza consultant, and
right.
Everyone's looking at them, and the restaurant's about to open, and the dough is not working, and there's no dishwasher, so you're in there working with like on your feet, 40 years old, scrubbing everything, and like it's a lot of hard
glamorous.
work. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, I'm in these exotic locations, and it's like, well, I'm just in a kitchen. Like, for most of the time, I could be anywhere in the world. I'm just in a place where I'm trying to find where the third pans are, and like, but in the end, I mean, it really is, it generally is always very rewarding. I make great connections with people from all over the world, like, working class people, just good people. And, I mean, it's an honor to be able to just do this job, to have like fallen into this, and I hope I can keep it up,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been fun. His book's coming out May 18th. You can find, was it May 18th or April? May 18th.
May 18th, yeah. And bookshop.org is a great place to go to, because it will give a portion of the sales to local independent bookstores. So I think that's
awesome.
Great. I mean, Amazon obviously is nice and everything, but bookshop.org, check that one out.
I'll put that in there as well, because I love that. I'm all about supporting local and supporting independent, and bookshop.org. I'm gonna write that down. Hey, thank you so much. Everybody look for him. I always want to go backwards. Look for him and me at Pizza Expo. We'll be there. Mikey Bausch will be there. Hopefully, hopefully this doesn't, National Restaurant Association just canceled their show this year.
Yeah. I'm getting my vaccine in a couple days. And so, we'll go through both of those jabs, and then hopefully that starts to help, and we can all move forward and do these fun things together. But either way, we'll just roll with the punches and just keep doing what we're doing.
Yep. All right, my friend. I will talk to you soon. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you later.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
See you, bud.